What's up, Ego Hackers? Welcome to the Cutting Edge Podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph, and this podcast is specifically for November 2022. And that's pretty awesome because it is also November 22nd in the year of 2022. And that means there's a lot of twos in today's date. And we're going to be talking about the rule of two today within the context of this particular. Welcome everybody to the show. And I'm very excited that all of you are here. And I'm also very thankful. So tonight's topic is actually the same exact topic that we had in the October 2022 video, which became apparently a house favorite among the Ego Hacker community, talking about evolutionary psychology. So this is Cutting Edge Evolutionary Psychology Part 2. Yes. Where we're going to be discussing some interesting content relating to what I have previously talked about, known as Season 4. For those of you who are not aware of Season 4 and Season 4 playlist, it is available on the YouTube channel and also on the podcast. Please watch that. Please hear it. Please understand what it means. And for the sake of making sure that no one is remotely confused, I'll also be touching on it lightly within the context of this particular lecture this evening. So let's get down to it. It's going to be fun. So let's move right along to our favorite in-studio guest. The whiteboard. All right, yes, we have the whiteboard. So let us get down to it. Let us discuss some of the Season 4 content right now. So we're going to get some black going on here, and we're going to, start explaining some things. So, okay, so let's see here. Okay, so we have big N, little b, big B, little n. Right? You guys remember this? You guys remember where this is coming from? You know? You guys remember? Ooh. Big H, right? And, maybe I actually got this wrong a little bit. 1 second. It's been a long time. I'll present it in a different way here. No, I don't like having my whiteboards pre-planned before the shows. I don't really actually believe in show prep. Why do that? It makes it like less real, So anyway, being a man and what makes a man high value, right? What makes a man high value? We're going to be answering this question tonight. Being a woman, what makes a woman high value? We're going to be answering this question tonight. High value, what is it? Well, we're going to be answering this question specifically from a Jungian analytical psychology perspective. Yes, which we have not really had the opportunity to do that. We've been relying on a lot of the colloquial definitions, especially from sources like, the red pill, etc., which is, obviously Tomasi, also Canwell, Anton, doing that. Jones, Caleb Jones, Jones. Red Pill, also the Tate brothers. Why not? Why not mention the Tate brothers? Andrew Tate's kind of a poor sap right now because he literally converted to a religion for women. Lol. Anyway, no, we're not doing that. And then, tons of other sources. We got Glover in there as well, Dr. Robert Glover. Very important. And then also Robert Moore, Douglas Gillette also matter in there as well in terms of the archetypes of mature masculine. I also technically actually have to add Jordan Peterson into this list, which is also entirely ridiculous but accurate. That's also important. And then also Mark Manson. We got Mark Manson in there as well. All of these names are very important when actually understanding specifically what the mature masculine should look like and ultimately, the mature feminine. And I would like to give a shout out to Stephanie De Lima for also introducing me to Zach Rode. I've been heavily enjoying his work, thoroughly enjoying his work. Oh, let's not forget Myron Gaines as well. We're going to get some Myron Gaines in there. And then a new one, which I'm also heavily enjoying, is the Sydney Watson. I don't know if you guys have watched Sydney Watson. I am heavily enjoying her show on YouTube and also trolling the shit out of her with it. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice. And also, I have to add in Dr. Tony Grant with that other book and a new book that was recently introduced to me, and I don't remember who did. It might be Hadith Sadat who did. It might also be Miss Majumdar. I don't know. But Laura Doyle. Laura Doyle is also an excellent resource, and I bought all of her books, and I'm also thoroughly enjoying her work. And if you are a man or a woman, you need to consume all of these authors in order to actually come to a colloquial understanding of what exactly makes a man or a woman high value, okay? That's the colloquial, so that's why we have it in red here with our nice little colloquial approach. Fan-fucking-tastic, and I don't give a flying fuck about dropping F-bombs on the cutting edge because it is behind the paywall, and I can actually just be, like, way more real about it. Yes, I know it's offensive, but I don't care. And honestly, if you're offended by it, I mean, why don't you just let go of your subjective ethics, because those ethics don't actually matter. You could talk to ISTPs about that, because we found out recently that it's ISTPs out of all of the 16 types that actually determine social norms more than everybody. Even though TPs are responsible for the creation of social norms, it is the ISTPs who are the ones that do it primarily. They are leading the TPs in social norms more than anyone else. So, but yeah, from the Jungian analytical psychology perspective, this matters. So, but let's look at what season 4 would be going for in this direction. So let me get my black ink back, and let's not draw with that. Okay, so we're gonna look at the female side right here. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, and then we're gonna look at the male side over here. Ding, 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 ding. Awesome. All right. So what do men ultimately bring to the table? So we've talked about nobility being the measure of a man's value. This is in season 4. And we have talked about beauty as the measure of a woman's value, and also in season 4. And what is the source of beauty? If you guys remember, it is humility. That is the source of beauty. What is the male source of nobility? Does anyone actually remember this off the top of your head? John, you can even chime in too here if you would want. But source of esteem. Ah, that's right. Esteem. You got it. Esteem. Correct. So, therefore, if you are a person of high value, we're gonna signify high value by the color of green, right? Because money is green. Nope, we're not doing that. We're gonna use gold, but there is no gold, so we're gonna go with green. So, the higher the nobility and the higher the beauty, right? We have the higher value the man or the woman, right? Right? Is this actually how it works? Yes, it does. And this is what we covered in season 4, but this is not actually like kind of the direction I wanted to go with this, because there's a whole other layer to this content that we discussed in season 4. So yeah, awesome. Okay, so going in the orange ink this time. So high value man. So we're going to actually introduce an entirely new concept. Okay? So, let's do this. High value, lowercase m, equals, okay, J times little p, okay? High value for little f equals p and little j. Okay, so what does that mean? What is that supposed to mean? So Thanos snapping whiteboards just cause. Goddamn right. Amen. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what that means? Does anyone know what these things mean? So we have big J, big P, right? And then we have little p, little j. What do these things mean? Does anyone know? This is the secret right here. This is the secret formula to unlocking human attraction dynamics. Human attraction dynamics, which is exactly what we discussed in season 4 content. This is an update to season 4. So what do these things mean? What do they mean? Come on. That's right. Input error. He's got it. Input error has it. Yes. Judgment and perception. Yes. J for judgment, P for perception. All right. So this is primary judgment. And with secondary perception. Why? Well, I'll explain why in a second. All right, so switching to the cameras. Did you guys know what attracts a man to a woman, right? What attracts a woman to a man? Like, this is what season 4 ultimately set out to do, and I think it actually did do that. Ultimately, it's beauty that attracts a man to a woman, and it's ultimately a man's nobility that attracts a woman to a man, basically. The thing is that to go in a little bit deeper, you have to be aware of something called masculine frame and also female hypergamy, and what all that means, right? So let's actually define what that is right now. So let's define masculine frame, and it's funny because it's actually a little bit, from the perspective of hypergamy to a point. So we have hypergamy, ding, and then we have the beta traits and the alpha traits in one. And this is the 3 Ps, which is protection, provisioning, and so protection, provisioning, parental investment, we'll just say parenting. Alpha traits are fitness, freedom, also kind of like myself above everyone else. All else, yeah, basically. Me-ism, to a point. So beta is we, alpha is me, basically. Beta is me, alpha is me. This is ultimately what women are after in terms of their hypergamy. And because they are attracted to men in this way, you could actually realize that nobility is entirely defined by hypergamy, right? Which means masculine frame is a man's ability to be both beta and alpha at the same time, basically. So here's the problem I have with the red pill. The red pill often teaches, it's like, okay, yeah, you should just focus on being more alpha because that's all that women are actually attracted to. So if you ever actually want to get laid, then you should be alpha, basically. The problem is with being alpha is that you have none of the beta traits, and the beta traits is where you get your masculine idealism, as I've discussed multiple times. And it's not really where it's at. But the thing is that in order to have true masculine frame, you actually have to have both the beta and alpha traits simultaneously. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have an even amount of either. Actually, I maintain that there's a yin and yang equilibrium in terms of masculine frame, such as alpha is the white part and beta is the black part, basically, within masculine frame, in as much as it is the same, or the opposite, technically, within hypergamy in terms of the female sexual strategy. But masculine frame ultimately has to provide both at the same time, but it has to provide more alpha than the beta, basically. So alpha is primary, beta is secondary. And if you actually think about it, throughout a woman's life, a woman clings more to security, and she actually ends up clinging more to the beta traits than she clings to the alpha traits throughout her life. So in reality, actually, beta traits are primary to a woman's hypergamy above the alpha traits. The problem is that women are believing the delusion or the illusion brought about by society to convince women that women can do protection and provisioning and parenting all themselves. Why? Well, because they outsource protection to society, to the court system and to the laws. They also can do their own provisioning because they can go get a job and they can be a strong, independent woman who needs no man, but for some reason needs a boss. Right. Okay. So they can get their own provisioning, right? And then obviously parenting. Oh, but we're no longer in a child rearing society. We are in a child support society. So we just outsource parenting to public schools so that your children get brainwashed to never, ever, ever revolt against the elite and continue to be treated like cattle, and as much as you as a woman are every single day. Great. And then also, we need to go out of our way to make sure fatherlessness is the standard for our culture, because we cannot allow our children to ever be exposed to their fathers, because if that ever happens, then, then a spark of rebellion will come, and then we'll lose all of our power, because masculinity exists to actually put society underneath its boot. That's why from masculinity comes conquerors, and the elite are afraid of conquerors. So we have to go out of our way to brainwash all of the women from a very young age via societal programming, as well as obsolete biological wiring. I'm quoting Caleb Jones. So to serve at the feet of the societal values. This is chapters 3, 4, and 5 of The Unchained Man by Caleb Jones, for example. And so that way, we control because women are primarily interested in beta traits over alpha traits. Society is going to take the role as the person or the entity that will give women the beta traits. Therefore, since women have the beta traits coming from society, they don't have to get it from men. So the beta males, the men who specialize in beta traits, like myself, because as an ENTP, my natural proclivity as an ENTP, same with an ISFJ, same with an INTP, same with an ESFJ, same for Crusader men, is our natural proclivity to provide more beta traits than alpha traits, which means in antiquity, Crusader men were the most attractive men out there. Wow. But now we're the least attractive men. It's kind of weird because we all have extrovert intuition functions, which would mean that we'd be technically, from a Jungian analytical psychology perspective, the most attractive men out there, because we are the most desirable out there because of our extrovert intuition functions. But due to societal programming and ultimately human nurture and conditioning, women have been conditioned to find us the least attractive out there. Okay, why does this matter? Back to an evolutionary psychology standpoint, because don't forget, this episode is Evolutionary Psychology Part 2, right? From an evolutionary psychology perspective, beta male traits, it was extremely necessary for men to be producing beta male traits primarily because 80% of the male population provides beta traits. And this is important for the survival of the human race, inasmuch as a woman is solipsistic and thus innately by birth more entitled than men are, okay? Because of that innate, inborn, ingrained psychological solipsism they have, which is also necessary for the survival of the human race, okay? But from the male perspective, we evolved, evolutionary psychology perspective, we evolved to be producing beta traits, but because society and those that rule society do not want to lose their power, because they don't want to lose their power, they are basically stealing the beta trait role from men and taking it upon themselves, where the elite themselves are basically the ones providing all the beta protection, provisioning, and parenting to women, and thus women are no longer attracted to 80% of the men out there. They don't even notice them. They're not even noticed, which means by default, 80% of the male population is automatically dejected, aka not even a choice, not even an option, to women in general, especially in Western society, which is the one society, it is the beast that rises from the sea. It is the world system that has been created by this image, this AI, this creature that has been from the Black Lagoon, that has been created by the elite in order to control society. Because in order for the elite to keep their power, they cannot allow masculinity to exist. Because if masculinity exists, there's a problem. Why do you think that smoking indoors is illegal in states? You think it's all about health hazards? No, it's about destroying male space so males don't get together and rise up against power. That's actually the reason. Because don't you guys realize that National Socialism, aka the Nazi Party, aka the last, quote, masculine group that existed on planet Earth that actually challenged the authority of the elite and almost wiped out the elite, They almost did. Hitler almost wiped out the elite. Did you guys know where they started? They started in cigar lounges and speakeasies and bars. They started in male space. And when male space are in, why do you think alcohol is so highly regulated? Why do you think tobacco is so highly regulated? They are literally regulating masculinity, okay? This is literally what's happening, okay? And this ends up becoming a huge problem on a consistent basis, right? So therefore, men no longer are masculine. And especially, and now and it's funny because, oh boy, the elite have it coming. The elite have it coming. Because it's funny because since controlling society with this beast that rises from the sea, controlling society with this world system that they have created, and now they are providing the beta traits to women in general, and those 80% of men out there are not even being noticed by women. You know, all those women, that masculinity is just going to start bubbling up. They're just going to get real pissed eventually. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to lead to one of the bloodiest conflicts on the history of the earth. Because no one's getting laid, no one's smoking their tobacco, and no one's drinking their booze. Men are pissed. And they're going to keep getting pissed. Mark my words. You're going to see one of the darkest, most bloodiest conflicts in the history of the planet, and it's very soon and around the corner because the elite have tightened their grip so much, so quickly over the last few decades, to the point where, like, my father and his father and his father still have no clue what it is to actually be masculine. Because now, all of a sudden, psychologically speaking, collectively, the human race is going to rise up against this world system and annihilate it, or attempt to annihilate it and take it from the elite. Because ultimately, you can't stop the evolutionary psychology of the collective mindset of men. Men are just so pissed off. We literally have a powder keg of masculinity that has built up and boiled up. It's this boiling cauldron that's about to explode, and it's going to explode in the greatest wave of violence that you've ever seen. War on scales that you have never seen before. It is coming. I promise. I promise. That's one of the reasons why, oh, Mr. C.S. Joseph, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, that's right. Get rid of fatherlessness. Maybe we should actually, allow masculinity to have its little outlets and whatnot, because it's been so repressed, it's been so oppressed, and is being openly oppressed nowadays, it's going to have a violent explosion. See, the Japanese figured it out, because the Japanese are very aware of the masculine proclivities of men, and that's why, the Japanese have set up their society so that masculinity is entirely allowed at certain times in certain places, etc. Whereas in Western society, masculinity is not even allowed at all. I wonder which society is going to last longer. That's right, the Japanese will last longer because they actually show some respect for masculinity and masculine behavior, but Western society absolutely doesn't. And see, the thing is that the Chinese and the Russians, they don't have to do anything about Western society. Western society is going to tear itself apart because of this powder keg of repressed masculinity that exists from within society itself. Hashtag fourth turning, folks. Hashtag Strauss and Howe theory. Maybe you should pay attention to that. Maybe you should. The violence is coming. And it's going to be absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Yeah, I'm sure the Nazis were against smoking as well, but they definitely started smoking. Just saying. So this is why these things have been ultimately reduced and highly regulated and taxed and just limited from Western society, because, again, men cannot be allowed to come together in order to challenge society as is. That's a huge problem. So this begs the question, how do we solve the problem? Well, it's our job as ego hackers and ultimately as the ego nation to put fatherlessness to an end. But how do we do that? Well, that means we have to keep families together. Well, how do we do that? Well, I guess that means men have to have something worth willing coming home to. I remember one time in my relationship where I literally told her, look, you're going to have to make a decision, because right now I'm not happy coming home to you. Think about that. I said that to her at one point in time, and she grew and she changed and she got through that particular situation. But that was a thing. That was a thing, because women just have to understand. It's like, like, hey, if you're going to be like, if you're being like a stay-at-home mom, or, like, hey, when I come home, I got to come home to something, But, it's like those women also have the same perspective of, well, I don't really care that much about your effort. I don't care about your relationship equity. I don't care about your relationship investment because I can just go get a job myself. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just controlling you. I'm taking away your freedom, right? These women, and like, I've heard it from like every woman in my whole life. Like they've all had, like, they all do this. All women do this. It's so ridiculous because they've been so innately conditioned. According to Dr. Tony Grant, she calls it the Amazon archetype, which is the archetype of the masculine woman, or how women in general are being, conditioned into being this masculine force and being incapable of being led, for example. And let me tell you, it's sometimes pretty difficult to lead an STP woman. Given the STP women that I've had in my life, yes, they're very difficult to lead, for example, because they're always trying to lead you, and that's really frustrating. But the point is that they have to realize is that, like, they too are part of the problem. I mean, fatherlessness will only be solved if men have a reason, if they have something to die for, right? Like, if I'm going to come home to a quarrelsome and abusive woman, like, for example, like in the Song of Solomon, or not Song of Solomon, in the book of Proverbs, Solomon, an ENTP, he wrote, "Better to be on the corner of one's own roof than in the home with a quarrelsome and disrespectful woman." I had an INTJ woman who was physically abusive with me, and I had her removed from my home by the police because she was physically abusive. She's one of the most narcissistic people I have ever met in my life. Insanely narcissistic. And she gets to be that narcissistic because society has enabled her that way, while simultaneously ignoring the evolutionary psychology. Our race will survive because of beta males, inasmuch our race will survive because of solipsistic females, okay? But here's the thing. The only reason why today looks sustainable is because of the world system, because of Western society, because of society itself. Take society away, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, all those beta males are super mega attractive to women. Because again, female hypergamy still technically places higher value on beta male traits than alpha male traits. It does not need to put much value on beta male traits right now because society is taking part of that workload. And it's easier for them to go to society and get those beta male traits from society than it is for them to actually work hard and actually be a good woman, a respectful woman, a woman with a gentle and quiet spirit, right? It's much easier to get it from society instead of getting it from a man. God forbid. But as soon as society collapses, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, the beta males, all of a sudden, us crusader men are the most attractive. Oh. Funny how that works. Isn't it funny how now you start hearing stories about how they call them incels, how the involuntary celibates are a new terrorist classification under the Patriot Act in the United States of America, and how these men are actually a threat to the nation itself. Kind of interesting how that is. All of a sudden, those in power are starting to realize what they have wrought. And what they have wrought is a huge masculine revolution. And the thing is that they may cancel Andrew Tate. They may kill Kevin Samuels. They may kill Malcolm X. They may kill all these people, who've stood up for masculinity throughout history, at least during the 20th and 21st, and so far in the 21st century, of course. But the reality of the situation is, it doesn't matter how many of these leaders they kill, it is inevitable. And they will be challenged in this very bloody war. And it's coming. You guys think World War II is bad? You think National Socialism is bad? You ain't seen nothing yet for what's coming. You ain't seen nothing yet. Now, if you would like to help me prevent that from happening, well, maybe you should understand the prophecy of Malachi chapter 4 and actually help me, because it is written, "In the last days I will send my prophet Elijah to you, and he will turn the hearts of fathers to their sons and the hearts of sons to their fathers, or else I will strike the land with a decree of utter destruction." Okay, that's a pretty rough prophecy. Here's the thing. If you don't put an end to fatherlessness, basically we're all going to die in a very bloody conflict. So How about you ego hackers out there actually, take on this mission that we have as a community here on the internet and also throughout the world and also locally here where I'm at right now and actually do something about it? How about we actually take some proper action? So, how do we do that? Well, we have to understand a couple of things before we can take some proper action. Let me show you. Let me show you a very simple way to understand. Actually, no, let's just delete this. Let me show you guys a very simple way. Now, I've been talking about, what attracts men to women, that's nobility. What attracts women to men, it's beauty, right? Okay, that's like the basic model that I'm using. But I've found a much more simplistic way from a Jungian analytical psychology perspective to actually explain it. So let's look at it. Let's look at that is. So, what do women want more than anything? Women. Let's put it down here. Okay, let's not use that. And then let's do men. Okay. What are men looking for? What are men trying to eat? What do men want? Men want to eat perception. Men want to eat perception. What do women want to eat? Women want to eat judgment. Perception functions, judgment functions. Oh. But what do men have? Well, they have judgment. What do women have? They have perception. All right, Mr. C.S. Joseph, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Have you guys ever heard of something called the feminine mystique? Have you ever heard of that? The feminine mystique? Have you ever heard of feminine intuition? Huh? You ever heard of that too? Oh, it comes from female perception. Female perception. Right? Have you ever heard of a man who keeps his word? Have you heard of that? How a man keeps his word? Promise Keepers. You ever heard of an organization called Promise Keepers? Right? What about my word is my bond? What about that? You guys ever hear that? Let me tell you the truth about men and women. Men, we're dirty. Oh, dang. I just found it right now. Yeah. Oh, actually, it's here. In my two middle fingers, right? My two middle fingers right here. As I flip the audience, the bird. That's kind of awkward. Didn't mean to do that. My two middle fingers here. I'm looking at my fingernails on my two middle fingers right now. And guess what? There is gross, disgusting things underneath these two fingernails right now. I'm a man. I am dirty by default. Men are just gross, aren't they? We're gross. Men are gross. We're dirty. You walk into our house, it's dirty AF. It's like there's food left out. There's socks on the floor. It's a shit show. With men, it's a shit show. Let's be honest. Because we're dirty. We're dirty. Why? Because we lack perceptive capability. We lack perception. Why do you think women spend so much time in front of the mirror? Why do you think women care so much about how they look, how they dress, how they come off, how they smell? Right? Sure, mostly extroverted sensing women care about that the most, but even the SI user women through self-discipline learn that is extremely important to them as well. Because women are the masters of perception. This is why women don't care about the pretty boy. You see a woman out there and you're like, okay. Are women in general attracted to men who look good, who are very visually stunning in general? No. Why is it every time I see some guy who literally looks fat and stupid and horribly dressed and literally has his shoes untied and one of his buttons is like improperly, placed in a certain location, but the woman he's with is an absolute total 9 out of 10 bombshell, could actually be a Victoria's Secret model, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? That's because women in general don't care about perception. They care about judgment. Okay? Perception is all about one very important concept. Art. Judgment, and I'm quoting Lane, a.k.a. Elliot Woodhead, for this. God bless you, bro. Miss you. I think you got a little too offended with your lack of power and authority within the community. So I'd like to have you back. I'd like to see you humble yourself in that regard, if you could, please, sir. But men, we have judgment, which is why men are looked at and assessed by women like businesses, whereas women are assessed by men like art. Okay? So art. Women are art to men, basically. That's why we care about beautiful women. Women who actually have 20% body fat or less. That would be nice. Women who actually have very long hair instead of actually thinking a pixie cut is attractive. Gross. When I see a woman with a pixie cut, I instantly judge her as lazy and potentially entitled. Way more entitled than a typical solipsistic woman would ever be. I loathe the pixie cut entirely. I find it just utterly disgusting. And because a long hair on a woman is actually a sign of very good health. Because did you know that women who are technically unhealthy, their hair falls out, their hair breaks off, and it will never actually get to a particular length. So the number one thing that attracts me to a woman is actually her hair and how healthy her hair is. And if it's strong and doesn't break off and is very long, because the length proves concretely that she is a woman of health and therefore healthy enough to bear my children, you see? To bear my legacy, right? Because that's the truth. Women are assessed like art, but men are assessed like businesses. Because in order to run a proper business, a man has to have proper judgment. So in reality, the truth is men are attracted to women with the best perception and best perceptive capabilities, and women are attracted to men with the best judgment. Because women lack proper judgment in as much as men lack perception. Men are dirty and gross, but women have terrible judgment. And I'm sorry to say this, ladies, but you have poor judgment. All women have poor judgment because their brains, psychologically, from an evolutionary psychological point of view, has invested more so in the perception side of cognition than judgment. And therefore, it's all about taking in information, taking in things, and giving off a show, and taking in information. Wait a minute, that sounds like solipsism. Taking in and consuming. That's what perception does. But judgment is all about production and producing and setting an order of things. Because if you don't have order, your business is not as successful. And technically, statistically, even though there are more women business leaders in history before, still technically, statistically, male-dominated businesses are way more successful than female businesses ever. This is why people can say, oh, Mr. C.S. Joseph, you're a fucking sexist because you only invest in stocks on male-dominated businesses compared to female-dominated businesses. To which I would say, no, it's not sexist. It's actually just straight-up biology. That's kind of like accusing me and telling me I'm racist because I would rather walk on the side of the street where there was more white people than there was more black people, because statistically, if I was walking on the black side of the street, I'm more likely to be jumped or attacked. But, I'm racist, right? Oh, but I'm sexist, right? No. The reality of the situation is that women lack judgment, just like men lack perception. Why is it that most women know the truth about men, that men are oblivious? Yes, we are. We're oblivious. We don't read body language like they do. We produce body language, but we don't read it. We don't consume it like they do. We're oblivious. Men are oblivious. Like, how often do you women out there tell men to take a hint? We are oblivious. So, it's just, it's just entirely ridiculous to me. Men are oblivious, but women lack judgment. And you want to know why there's proof of lack of judgment? Everyone talks about how women make decisions based on their feelings and their emotions and case by case in the moment, how they feel about certain things. That's how women make decisions, right? It's because when they lack proper male judgment, all that's left is an emotionally inept form of judgment. That's what's left over, right? That's how women look dirty. That's how women have gross things underneath their fingernails with their decision making. This is why, biologically speaking, a man cannot trust a word that comes out of a woman's mouth. But then if you look at it, compared to men, a man is expected and does keep his word, keeps his promises. My word is my bond, right? Right? Because he has proper judgment. And women can feel safe and protected and all those beta traits and even those alpha traits based on his word, based on what he says. They can trust what he says. But you cannot ever trust what a woman says. Not because she's a liar, but because of her lack of judgment, her emotional judgment that causes her to change her mind every few minutes even, where she will contradict herself. It's so funny, she's a TI parent, but she changes her mind so much that it's like, oh my God, you don't have TI parent. You just contradicted yourself 4 times in the last paragraph. Because, again, she's still a woman. She is still a woman. She still lacks proper judgment, which means men are really the only ones out there capable of proper judgment, which is why men are to be respected in a relationship. And women are loved like art, right? Because of their perceptive capabilities. This is why women are very good at providing men warning to disaster with that feminine intuition, that feminine mystique, which they need to have that feminine intuition and mystique because I have observed women who wake up in the middle of the night summoned by their perceptive capabilities before their own child starts crying, and then 2 minutes later their child starts crying because that feminine intuition is just aware of what happens before it does, because they have that perceptive capability. Men don't have that. They just sleep in all the way through. All the more reason single dads should not be a thing. Because, let's be honest, we suck. Because taking care of children requires higher perceptive capabilities, especially keeping children away from danger, which women are very good at. Didn't you guys ever watch the History Channel show, The Vikings? Don't you remember the scene where Siggy ends up chasing after the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok as they get trapped into a lake of ice and they're dying, and she ends up sacrificing herself to save those 2 children. But because of her feminine intuition and her feminine perception, she realized that there was danger and she couldn't explain it, but she found them and saved their life before they died, those children. Yeah, that's the value of female perception. None of that has anything to do with judgment. So women lack judgment. This is why in the New Testament, in the Bible, in 1st or 2nd Peter, they are known as the weaker sex, because they lack judgment. But it's no mystery that men lack perception. They don't really understand body language, and only a few men do, and that's only if they practice at it. They're so oblivious, men are oblivious. They just are, and all women know it. They can't take a hint. You gotta spell it out for them, right? But at least, those women can rely on their word, because their men are obsessed by, like a business, to exercise proper judgment. Therefore, the truth is, if you as a man want to be attractive to women and women in general, you have to have something called proof of judgment, proof of sober, great judgment. Why is it women are very unattracted to men who are drunk? Because when they are drunk, they are closer to their feminine perceptive sides than their judgment sides. Why are men so unattracted to women when they are drunk? Because women are closer to their judgment side and become super judgmental and judgy when they are drunk. And this applies to all the 16 types, by the way. Men are not really attracted to drunk women. That's why. Women are not attracted to drunk men. That's why. It's only in the situation when they're actually drunk together that it's okay, because you're both able to shift the roles in that particular moment. That's literally why they're there. I am not a communist, so like don't loop me in with those people. Yeah, not a communist. So, this answers the age-old question: what attracts men to women and women to men? A simpler way of looking at it, folks, literally is just two things. So, judgment is what women want from men. And perception is what men want from women. Well, let's look at some examples, right? So we have to talk about proof. What is proof? What is proof of proper judgment? Proof of proper perception, right? What is proof? What is proof? Okay? Well, proof of proper perception. So what do women do? Just as examples. These are just examples. Long hair, 20% body fat, child rearing capabilities. Anytime, like in my life, if I was like dating a woman or in a relationship with a woman and I found out that she couldn't change a diaper, I would break up with her. Straight up. Wow. Gross. Gross. Child rearing capability, that's important. Homemaking capability, utility, those kinds of things, like, it's very important. How about a proper wardrobe, right? Smelling good. That's a big one. Smelling good, that's important, deodorant, that's important. I have had to help women in my life wear deodorant. Coaching clients, oh my God, what the hell? That sucks. These are all perceptive things that men are going after. So the woman who invests the most in perception becomes a woman of the highest value. So if a woman invests in the highest in the perceptive things, she becomes the woman of the highest value. What about proof of proper judgment, right? What about proper judgment, right? Well, having their finances figured out. That's nice. That's pretty obvious. Health, to be able to, or strength, to be able to fight the battles, fight the wars, get through the day. No sickness then. That's important. Finances handles properly. Relationships with other men. That's important. That's super important as well. Challenge, constantly working on their skills. Did you guys ever watch Napoleon Dynamite? According to Napoleon Dynamite, the thing that attracts women to men is skills. He was right. Skills. Oh my God. Because all these things prove proper judgment, right? Do you think drunkenness proves proper judgment? Do you think snorting a line of coke really proves proper judgment? Do you think that's attractive to women? No. That's not true. That's not true. So, this makes men a man of the highest value. So if you are a man or investing in things that prove proper judgment, if you're a woman investing in things that prove proper perception, that makes you a man and woman of the highest value, which means you will naturally attract members of the opposite sex of the highest value. And then you'll be able to have a relationship. And then because you're already high value people, guess what? You are more likely as a man to come home happy, that you're coming home happy because you're coming home to a woman of your dreams, a woman of perceptive capability, right? This is why masculine women struggle so much, because masculine women, especially STP women, suck at perception and perceptive capability to the point that they are gross. In general, STP women are gross, and they have to spend a long time of their life to increase their perceptive capabilities because of how manly they are. Because those, for some reason, those STP women overvalue judgment instead of perception, and they have to spend a long time in their life learning to value perception instead and go the other direction. Sucks to be them, but it's a fact. It's a fact. There's a statement. There's a statement recently. I'm going to read a statement. It comes from the book by, I think, Dr. Let's see here. Go info. Let's see here. Trying to find a specific photo of my text that was sent. Oh, here it is. I found it already. I'm going to read you an excerpt from Dr. Tony Grant's book. And it was sent to me by actually. Quote, "Very few men, kingly or not, are willing to take the time or energy to get the girl behind the boy to surrender." This is Dr. Tony Grant talking about the masculine woman, also known as the Amazon. Then Railgun says, quote, "Thank you for being the only man willing to do that. That's also why I hold the highest respect for you. I wish I can learn to be better at showing it. I hope that I can learn to be better at showing it. No one has been willing to do this for me in my whole life except you." Ain't it the truth? So, that's the thing. This is the thing that masculine women have to deal with, because especially when they've been conditioned by society, by the elite, to be this masculine woman, to be this Amazon, basically, this masculine woman, right? And this masculine woman who heavily invests in judgment to be more like men and have lost all perception entirely. And then as a result, men don't even want them. And then all of a sudden we have the cat moms, we have the dog moms, and, by 2030, over 50% of working age women will be alone by 2030. That is an actual stat. Go look it up. Okay? Really scary, folks. Sounds like fatherlessness to me. Sounds like a guarantee that God Almighty will strike the land with a decree of utter destruction. Sounds like that war is definitely on. Unless we turn that statistic around, it's not going to happen. And the only way that statistic is going to get turned around, the only way this danger, the prophecy of Malachi, is going to be changed, for example, or the danger presented by Strauss and Howe theory, for those of you that don't really give a damn about the Bible, and I don't care if you care about the Bible or not. I just use it because I'm a biblical scholar, and that's how I was raised, and that's all it is. I don't really give a damn about Christianity. I personally hope it burns in a fireball of death. That's my personal opinion. And if you want to talk to me about why that is, message me on Discord. I'll be happy to have that conversation with you. But the reality of the situation is that women are being conditioned to invest in judgment, and that's the problem. And then while simultaneously, because they're investing in that judgment, male judgment all of a sudden doesn't have that much value anymore. And this is literally destroying families and creating fatherlessness everywhere we go. This is a huge, huge problem. But it's not too late. It's not too late. It's not too late for the Amazons. It's not too late for the masculine women. It's not too late for the feminine men. The feminine men just need to keep focusing on investing on judgment more so. And which means judgment is primary, but guess what? Perception is secondary to men. Perception is primary to women, but judgment is secondary to women. So us feminine men like myself need to be investing a little bit in perception as well, in as much as our judgment. But remember, judgment is still masculine. Judgment is the primary thing for men. And for women, it's the other way around. They need to be investing in perception. That's why oftentimes, like, SCP women, they enter my life, for example, and I immediately start talking about their health. I immediately start talking about their wardrobe. I immediately start talking to them about their childbearing capability, their homemaking capability, their utility, whether or not they smell good, and just understand that, yes, it is a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior. Femininity is a learned behavior because perception equals femininity, and as much as judgment equals masculinity, okay? It's all learned behavior. I had to learn how to be masculine. I was mega feminine, all about perception and how I looked and how I, and what kind of show I could put on, especially being a Heart Temple Crusader, growing up. And I didn't even start exercising or even coming to terms what proper judgment even looked like until I was 27 years old. Didn't even realize that. Didn't even come up with that. You see? So that too ended up becoming a problem. Watch out. Watch out. Back to an evolutionary psychology point of view. So from an evolutionary psychology perspective, you have to understand that men value perception from women, and women value judgment from men. It is your responsibility to provide proof of each. Proof of judgment and proof of perception. Now, I submit to you something that comes from the book Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover, and I think this advice applies to everybody. If you are a man, primarily focus here. And if you're a woman, primarily focus here. But if you want to be the highest value, if you want to be the most complete, do both. Both. Just like for a man to satisfy a woman's hypergamy, he provides both the alpha and the beta traits simultaneously. And I'm not talking about some bullshit purple pill shit where you do 50% beta, 50% alpha bullshit. No, it's more like 60 to 70% alpha with the rest beta, or 60-40 in favor of alpha, right? Or 55-45 in favor of alpha, that kind of thing. Because you still have to give respect to what is the primary focus. The primary focus in this case being judgment. Because biologically and from an evolutionary psychological point of view, we must make sure that we are showing proof of judgment and proof of perception. Okay? And then if you want to be the absolute highest value man and the absolute highest value woman, do both. But don't forget which one is supposed to be your primary focus as a man or a woman. You do this, and I promise you, you'll become the highest value man or woman out there, which means you will attract the highest value man or woman for you. And then you will have the highest value family, and that's the highest value legacy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the problem of fatherlessness will be solved. And then all of a sudden, the human race will once again have a future and a hope. It is written in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, "For I know the plans that I have for you, to prosper you and to give you a future and a hope." Folks, if you want a future and a hope, I highly recommend you heed my words and do this. It's not good enough to make investments in judgment and perception. You have to prove it. Just like it is also written that faith is dead without works or actions to back it up. So you have to back it up. You have to prove. Why does this matter? Do you know what the red pillars call this? You know what the PUAs call this? They call this DHV, also known as demonstration of higher value. Demonstration of higher value is proof of judgment, proof of perception. DHV. And DHV is the number one component that makes somebody attractive to the opposite sex. When you are proving your judgment or you are proving your perceptive capabilities to the opposite sex because you are literally demonstrating it concretely with actions to back it up. That's how it works, folks. That's what you need to be doing on a regular basis. DHV, demonstration of higher value. This is what you do. Demonstrations of higher value. One final point. Remember what we were saying about how women value camaraderie? Men value compatibility. Okay. Well, women also value judgment, right? Men also value perception. Okay. Well, let's look at this. Compatibility, they're getting it from men. And then a woman. All right. And perception, right? They're getting it from women. And maybe a man in his life. It's complete opposite from women. Right? A man. Right? A woman, maybe sometimes, the mature feminine. But judgment from men. Right? You see? Why does this matter? Because relationships, from an evolutionary psychology point of view, like I've said before, are supposed to be polygynous. Polygynous. So, what does that look like? I have my tent here. And here are the tents of my women. Okay? That's how it works. Got an ESTP right here. Got an ISFP right here. Got an INTJ right here. Right? Got an ISTP right here. Got an ENTJ right here. You see? Don't you see? Don't you get it? Don't you see? ESFP right here. Here's Chase in the middle, okay, with my grand tent. By the way, this comes from the book called The Red Tent. You might want to read this. It's historical fiction. Read that book if you haven't already. Have you noticed something? So, they're all sexually compatible with me, right? They all are perceptively compatible with me. They're all perceptively compatible. But the women are judgmentally compatible with each other. That's camaraderie. You see? And if you think about it, from a evolutionary psychology point of view, from an evolutionary psychological point of view, okay? These women, see, if I have another man, if I, see, like, so let's say I have a friend, right? Well, what does my friends look like? We're going to put in one of my friends right now. I have a very important INTJ friend. Here's his tent. And him and I have that male compatibility. We like our compatibility. Men like compatibility. Look at what's happening here. Do you think any of these 6 women in my life, who are all my wives and are bearing my children and are a part of my family, do you think these 6 women are going to cheat on me, the ENTP, who they're sexually compatible with, because they only have room for one man in their life with whom they could be compatible with? Do you think these 6 women are going to cheat on me and cheat on me with my INTJ friend? Hell no. They wouldn't even be attracted to him because there's no sexual compatibility. Don't you get it, people? Our evolutionary psychology, our very biology itself, literally protects the family just from a psychological point of view. Even in this polygynous model, which is technically this tribal polygynous model of family, is literally how family is supposed to actually work. This is our past, but it's also our future, especially after society crumbles. And if you think this ain't coming back, oh, then you're a dog mom and a cat mom. Or you are what people call an incel, I guess. See, that's the problem, folks. Invest in proof of judgment. Invest in proof of perception. Because biologically, you could see right here, I ain't going to get cucked by my INTJ friend because psychologically speaking, those 6 women aren't interested in him anyway. Because they're already getting all those emotional jollies from their judgment camaraderie from their fellow women. While those sexual perceptional things is basically I am the nexus within this family and this tribe. This is literally how it works, people, psychologically speaking. Yet you guys want to pretend that monogamy is the best way to go, that the nuclear family is the best way to go. No, the nuclear family has destroyed everything. The nuclear family is nothing more than a construct of the elite to destroy our lives and turn us into mindless cattle that they can easily rule, such that masculinity would never rise up again and ultimately create a revolution where they are annihilated from the face of the earth. That is the issue. Because they're afraid of this. Because this model means masculinity is everywhere. You see? Because let's look at Mr. INTJ right here. Let's look at this. Let's look at what he's got. Oh, there's his INFP. There's his INFP. Oh, there's his ENFP. Okay? Oh, there is his ENTP. Right there. And you know what's interesting about this? My INTJ friend right here, my INTJ friend, his name's Chad, by the way. And let me tell you, he is a Chad. He is a Chad. There's Chad right there. Chad the Chad. He's got his girls, whatever. Do you think I'm going to cuck him? Do you think I'm going to want to sleep with any of those girls? No. They gross me out. I don't want to lay with other NPs. You see what I'm saying, folks? Our families are already biologically protected by our psyches because women value judgment and men value perception. This is literally how it works. This is the truth. And if you guys can't accept that, I'm sorry. Because that means you're relying on society. That means you're relying on the world system. That means you're relying on the elite. And I promise you, they will fall. Where are you going to be when that happens? Oh, you little nuclear families? The nuclear families just destroyed everyone. Children are developmentally behind because of the nuclear family. Think about it. Let's look at my nuclear family. You guys want to see my nuclear family and how much of a shit show it was? Okay? My dad is an ENFJ, okay? My mom is an ISFJ, okay? My sister is an ESFJ, okay? What's the problem here? Oh, that's right. It's TI only. There is no TE, no extroverted thinking in this nuclear family, which means I grew up in a nuclear family echo chamber of hell. And is that really what you want for your children? Is that really a danger that you could go for? Because whereas, in this family, where I have a lot of little children, and all these children play together, and these girls are helping each other out, and as much as they are helping me out, we all have each other's backs, because as it is written by Solomon in ENTP, a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Well, guess what, folks? Guess what? All these different cognition available increases the development and the capabilities of the children. And is a way to ensure the survival of our race. But instead, we got to rely on Tylenol. Great. Think about having all that different psychology available within your tribe, how much stronger your family is going to be, how much insured your legacy is going to be and your bloodline is going to be. But now and then, we got people out there who are such losers. Oh, I just want to get married and then, well, let's not have children. And then their entire bloodline dies, giving entire disrespect to their entire family line. All the people who have died and fought in wars and bled and suffered so that you could be alive today. Really? Really? But the elite want to destroy that. They want to prevent you from being born. And if they can't prevent you from being born, they'll kill you in the womb. But if you are born, okay, fine. Then we're going to educate you and treat you like cattle and extract as much value as we can from our complete life system and our UN agenda for the 21st century and our UN ID 2020 system. And, we're just going to take over your life and extract as much value as we can while going out of our way to make sure the entire environment within Western society is as toxic as possible so that you have a reduced lifespan so you die sooner. Great. And so you see, folks, this life that I'm showing you, this family that I'm showing you, is everything counterculture to what the elite and to what Western society cannot allow. Because all of a sudden, if men realize that they could have something like this, all of a sudden they have something worth dying for. All of a sudden, masculinity is back. And all of a sudden, the elite will be brought to boot. Basically underneath our heel where they belong. Inasmuch as Christ himself crushed the head of the viper. And that's the truth. Mark my words, folks. You can invest in your ideals of the nuclear family. You can invest in your ideals of your one true love and buy into the soulmate myth. You can invest in your monogamy as much as you want. You can have those ideals. But then your bloodline will fade away and mine will keep going. And all that will be left is me on this earth to direct it as I see fit. Because you bought into the bullshit. Maybe you should free your minds and realize that, what actually really matters. Our children, that's what actually matters. Not your selfish desires. Our children is what matters. To give them a future and a hope. Instead of being like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and all those people from that generation who sold us all downriver. And it's true. But you want to continue their legacy of stupidity and doom our future. How about we not do that and do the opposite? Therefore, invest in judgment, invest in perception, and then prove it. And I promise you happiness and success in your life. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you guys next time.